Hello and welcome to a brand new Arseblog Arsecast right here on arseblog.com. Thank you very much indeed, as always, for being here. I hope you're all well. We are in Lisbon and I'm in a hotel room with Andrew Allen. Good morning to you, Andrew.
Good morning. What a privilege it is to be here with you.
Thank you
and
very
slightly
much.
odd as well at the same time, I must say.
Yeah, the whole face-to-face recording thing is like...
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah, it is a bit different. But we're here because Arsenal were in town last night and came away from the stadium with a 1-0 win over Sporting, which is, I think, a moment that this team absolutely needed. We might get into the nuts and bolts of that in a minute now, but let's start with the team, I guess. No big surprise about the starting lineup. We had Declan Rice, Martin Zubimendi, Victor Gyökeres, Nani Madueke all back in the team, Gabriel fit, Leandro Trossard back after the game against Southampton. Obviously quite a number of changes.
Yeah, and I think much needed as well. I think almost people forgot that we had all of these players after the two defeats and when we're panicking, and there was a certain level of calm restored, especially seeing Raya back in goal, I have to say. And yeah, I mean, I don't, as you say, I don't think there was really any surprises there. I mean, there might have been some people asking for Max Dowman to start again off the back of the weekend, but I think, as you mentioned in the blog the other day, like, I mean, he's so young, he might need to protect his legs a little bit, and he does get kicked around. But yeah, I mean, you know, I imagine he was hoping Victor Gyökeres would be particularly pumped about being back at Sporting as well, and no bad thing to give Havertz a little breather as well.
So, in terms of how it all began, there was obviously a fairly good chance for Sporting early on. In the opening 6-7 minutes, I can't remember, Araujo, I think is the guy's name, Maxi Araujo, who I noticed people talking about in terms of some of the fouls that he made last night. Apparently, no player has made 7 fouls in a Champions League game and not got booked for 900 years or something like that. But, you know. This was quite an interesting one because I certainly heard around me a little bit of frustration at how apparently easily Arsenal were cut open in that moment, and people were looking maybe at Ben White because it's the fullback and Araujo ran off the back of him. I genuinely think that is a sensational pass from the centre half, whose name I can't remember. It's an unbelievable pass, and I think any fullback and centre half, because it's William Saliba alongside him, would find that almost impossible to defend. If you can execute that pass as well as that guy did, you're going to give your forward or your runner a real chance at goal. I don't think it's bad defending. I think it's actually just brilliant play from the opposition.
Yeah, am I right in saying it was with the outside of his foot as well? I mean, it was pretty spectacular.
Yeah.
And we were definitely caught kind of slightly flat-footed, I think. But, I mean, great run. And it was a bit of a heart and mouths moment for everyone in the away end when that ball was rocketing towards goal. You were thinking, oh God. And then, yeah, I mean, off the bar. But it was very hard to tell what had actually happened there. You know, certainly from where we were, we didn't know that had been saved.
No.
I think it was you looking at your phone, reporting back to everyone that there were fingertips involved.
Yeah, I had the live blog. Lewis was doing the live blog. And he sort of obviously saw the replays and saw that it was a save from David Raya. I mean, it's one of those really faint touches, but I think without that ball is probably going to go in under the crossbar.
Yeah.
But it was a kind of heart and mouth moment that early in the game, and you know, considering we were looking for a performance and a response from Arsenal to the last 2 defeats. But you know, obviously Raya, who we'll talk about a bit more later on, in terms of what he brought to the team, the importance of that save at that moment, at that juncture in the game is huge.
Yeah, I wouldn't have enjoyed the rest of the game if we'd gone down so early there. I think there'd been a lot of agitated voices around us, and no, I mean, we survived. I think that was the important thing. Arteta obviously kind of steeled the team for a quick start, and I mean, sometimes you just need a moment like that to go your way. To be honest, like, it didn't feel like we were really going to do anything in those opening few minutes. We really felt like we were on the back foot. I mean, they were pretty composed. You know, their crowd was very, very into it. Big kind of tifo before the game and all the rest of it.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, I have to say I was nervous, but it's that sort of first leg nervousness where you're never completely like, it's going to be game over no matter what happens really here. So I was, relatively okay, but God,
yeah,
it's a moment.
It's a moment, yeah, and it doesn't settle you down when the opposition crash one off the bar that early. But I do think what we did then, when Arteta was talking before the game about wanting his team to show their identity, you know, that you can look at that in all kinds of ways, I think, or you can project your own kind of what you want Arsenal's identity to be in that context, right? So maybe people are saying, right, our identity is an attacking team, we're going to go. And for me, it was just about finding a way to control games again, because we didn't really control the game against Manchester City in the Carabao Cup final. We didn't really control it in the way you would like against Southampton because it was more open. And I think you got to look at the team selection and maybe some of the players who played in that, some of the unfamiliarity played a part in that. But for me, the identity that Arteta was looking for was that control, was about what we did in the first half of the season where people couldn't get a shot on target, right? That kind of thing. People's mileage on how exciting or exhilarating that is will vary, but I think that was what he was looking for. So in the aftermath of that chance then from Sporting, I think I turned around to you at one point and said, they've barely been in our half since. And that was, I suppose, from the manager's perspective, will be a pleasing aspect of how we played the game. There wasn't a great deal going on from an attacking perspective, but we didn't let Sporting near our goal at all.
Yeah, I mean, there was 4 players there who I think really make a difference. You know, you've got Zubimendi and Rice, obviously, but Ødegaard willing to drop deep and come and get the ball. And I thought Calafiori as well was really excellent. So a combination of that kind of foursome alongside, you know, a more established defensive partnership and Raya obviously in goal, who's able to calm things down and look comfortable with the ball at his feet and beckon players onto him before making a pass, absolutely made a huge difference. And yeah, I mean, I guess we kind of just strangled the game a little bit, right? I mean, it was loud and all we had to do was kind of keep the ball for a while and kind of calm it all down. You know, you do want to see this team push forward a bit more on occasions, but perhaps in a first leg away from home in a Champions League game, actually, it wasn't as important as that. You know, that wasn't the kind of be-all and end-all in this instance. Can you tell I'm a bit tired today?
Yeah, just a little. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
words are a struggle. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good for a podcast, isn't it?
Yeah,
words
absolutely.
being a struggle. Yeah, that'll be the margaritas and the late night. Yeah, I mean, it was a perfectly kind of normal Arsenal performance, I would say.
Would you say it's like a normal European performance at this level of the Champions League, regardless of whether it's Arsenal or not? I think the first half of a first leg away from home, you know, the last time we came here, for example, we ran out 5-1 winners, and I do wonder if there was an element of expectation around that again. I think it's a very different dynamic. Obviously, a group stage game, especially in the extended group format that they have now, the league table format that they have right now, is very, very different from the first round or the first knockout tie-in away from home, 2 legs. So this was kind of what I was expecting, that Sporting might try to start fast, that Arsenal might then try and exert some control and strangle the game a bit. I mean, I do think there is an argument that you want to see a bit more from Arsenal in the final third. But as a sort of first half with 0 injury time, by the way, because not much happened in that first half, really, it felt like, right, this is what happens at European level. You know, you sort of have to adjust your mindset a little bit to the way that the game is played when you get to this stage of this competition. Yeah,
I think there's a maturity about the way the team deals with this level of competition now. I mean, 3 years ago when we were back in the Champions League, maybe we were a little bit, you know, raw and youthful and prone to the occasional mistake, but this was controlled. I mean, it looked like a team who were favourites to win the tie, doing what it needed to do. I'm not going to say going through the motions, because they had to work hard. You know, this Sporting team were on a 17-game winning run at home. and they clearly fancied their chances. But I also looked at their team and noticed in moments that they maybe didn't quite have the cutting edge and the quality that you might kind of fear at this level. I mean, obviously last year we were playing Real Madrid, and the ball's being played forward to Kylian Mbappe, and you're panicking a little bit. But this time I didn't look at Luis Suarez, the Gyökeres replacement, and particularly think that he was going to have one over Gabriel and Saliba. That's for sure.
No, I mean he barely got a kick all night, to be fair.
I think there was one shot, wasn't there, late on that I got down to save, but he was on scraps.
Yeah, which I guess is what Arteta would have wanted and what the players would have wanted from this game. After the break, maybe a little more lively, a little more, not quite end to end, but there was a little more action. I think Trossard had a shot, didn't he, early in the second half, pulled it wide. There was a cross, I think, from Madueke that Gabriel almost got on the end of.
Yeah, I mean, he did hit the bar, didn't he, in the corner?
In the first half, from where we were through the net, it was very difficult to see precisely what had happened because it was up the other end. I thought the corner had been cleared to Odegaard, who pulled his shot wide. But obviously it hit the bar. It was like a
very Odegaard shot, that kind of slightly snatched from the edge of the box.
It was, yeah. There was another one. He had a shot with his right foot as well, didn't he? Was that first half? I think a shot with his right foot. It was on target, but I mean, he's certainly been trying his luck because he had a few efforts against Southampton as well. But he always looks like a player who needs to be in the groove with his shooting, and sometimes goes through periods where it just looks like he's not going to. The barn door with a. He's not in the groove at this moment in time with his shooting, but
Yeah, I mean, look, as a whole, we did not create much last night. I think the XG was pretty pathetic
for both teams.
Yeah, for both teams. So I mean, it was a real stalemate, right? Yeah. And I think had it stayed that way, neither of us would have really complained.
No. I mean, it would have been a bit underwhelming, but, I think you can all logically, objectively look at a 0-0 away from home in a first leg of a European tie and say, listen, that's not the worst result in the world. It could be better, but it's not bad. You don't want to come back to London on the back of a defeat, obviously. The ball was in the back of the net about midway through the second half. Martin Zubimendi curled it home nicely, but Victor Gyökeres offside in the build-up. I mean, I even felt when we were celebrating that goal that it was. I looked at it and thought, I think he's offside.
Yeah, there was a certain kind of willingness to celebrate, but a sort of immediately looking around, going, "Well, that's going to get VAR'd, right?" And, I mean, they don't have big screens in the stadium, and they don't really communicate any of the VAR stuff at all. So. We were kind of in the dark until, again, you were checking the live blog to find out what had happened. And, quickly, obviously, it was ruled out. And I think the players knew. But it was also, I was surprised the shot even went in, actually, because, from where he was, the goalkeeper looked a bit weak being beaten at his near post there. But
it was one of those where he sort of dived under it.
Yeah.
A bit, yeah.
And I wondered whether that was because he just sort of knew it was going to be offside or the build-up or just bad goalkeeping. Not sure.
Yeah. Well, that was a bit of a disappointment, obviously. Mikel Arteta did make a change. Odegaard went down. I don't really know, still don't really know what exactly happened there when Odegaard went down and we were, looking at him. Someone said, he's just lost his boot, so he's just sitting down to tie up his boot again. But you could sort of see by the way he was sitting that he wasn't happy or comfortable. He went off and got some treatment and stayed on for a little while and then was replaced by Kai Havertz. I think this is maybe an interesting aspect of how the game or how the final stages of the game played out because Havertz had a huge impact late on, obviously. But again, much like the first half, I thought we were very much in control, playing the game, a lot of the game, in their half. And while he wasn't particularly incisive or crafty, wasn't making chances for anybody. And listen, I think it was a very difficult game in which to make chances for both teams. When Odegaard went off and you put Havertz on in that position, you lose possession. You lose a guy who gets on the ball because Havertz obviously plays that quite differently. So I'm not saying it sort of lets Sporting back into it, but immediately it sort of changed the not momentum, but maybe the dynamic of the game where it was being played a little more in midfield, a little more in our half than it had been previously.
Yeah, I mean, I I love Kai Havertz as a player, and it's really interesting to see Arteta, I guess, experimenting with him again and using him more as a midfielder than an out-and-out striker. I mean, he clearly has something to offer there. We'll get to the goal, obviously, but he's a very neat and tidy player, and I think, automatically when you see him kind of moving around the pitch, he wants to be on the ball, but he's not going to go so deep to go and get it. And he linked up play nicely. I mean, I thought in the grand scheme of things, all of the substitutions were actually quite, they were quite ambitious substitutions, I thought, to take off both wingers and put two wingers on, and including old young Max. It just showed a bit of intent, which I wouldn't have been surprised if he'd gone, more defensive, I'd say.
Right. Well, Havertz came on, and then I think Trossard and Madueke. I mean, I think Madueke was more impactful than Trossard. There were moments, I think, when Trossard, there was...
he doesn't look right to me at the moment, Trossard.
Yeah, it doesn't look like he's moving particularly well.
The version of himself in the first half of the season, just after signing the pay rise...
so you're saying give him another pay rise?
Yeah, just bump him up.
Just give him another few quid, he'll get some goals.
He's not quite getting into those positions anymore. And he definitely looks like someone who is playing because he's nursing an injury. And I do wonder with some of these guys at this point of the season how much that's affecting them, especially when there's a World Cup on the horizon as well. It's tough. It's sort of frustrating because what he can give you, but we just haven't seen him in and around the box taking opportunities like he was in the first part of the season.
I think that the best moment that I can remember from Trossard, apart from that shot that he had early in the second half, was a first half when I think he sort of ended up in the space you expect Odegaard to be, in that kind of right inside right channel. And it was Calafiori who made an overlap, and he played a nice ball to Calafiori, but that was our left side just completely shifting over to get involved. So I don't think the left side worked particularly well from an attacking perspective. But look, he did make the change. Madueke was lively enough, had some moments, was fouled a lot by Araujo, who didn't get booked at all, which is... Lewis kept going on about that in the live blog, so it's on my mind. It wasn't something that in the stadium I was like, oh, come on, this guy's got to get a yellow card.
Well, but hard to tell which player were which through the thick netting.
Yes, well, that is an issue, and we'll talk about that when it comes to the goal, actually. But yeah, I think you're right. You're putting on a 16-year-old away from home, Max Damon, I think the youngest player ever to play in a Champions League knockout. Champions League quarter-final game. Yeah. Martinelli, whose record in Europe this season has been very good. So I did wonder if he might start, but I think if you've got the Madueke, Gyökeres components in that front three, I understand why he went with Trossard for a bit more technical security, if that's the right way of putting it. But, Martinelli is...
I mean, his highlights package in this season's Champions League is extraordinary. If they want to move him on at some point, everyone can just point to him doing what he's done at the highest level this year in this competition. And it's not... You don't often see him create exactly like that,
No.
It was an unusual sort of dart and move, but it completely depends on someone making that run for you. And obviously that run was coming from midfield. It wasn't just someone standing in a static position trying to pin a defender and then make the run. And it was really, it was a lovely, lovely moment. When you do these away games, you definitely don't want to lose. And I'd kind of made my peace with the idea of a draw. It was sort of like, well, we don't want to be standing here for an hour and a half after the game and being penned in by the police and all the rest of it, miserable. A draw will be fine. And I was so happy for the goal, because it just gives you that moment to cling to. The memory of the trip suddenly just... it's there. Absolutely.
And I mean, listen, I'll come back to Raya, because I think it was about 5 minutes before the goal where he made a brilliant save down to his left, it would have been, at the near post.
I mean, he made a double save, didn't he, at one point? I think it was Luis Suarez. And then there was also a header, a diving header, I think, that he had to get down to as well. So, I mean, he's genuinely been the difference maker for us this season,
Well, I said I was going to come back to Raya, but seeing as we're talking about him now, we might as well give him his flowers. He was man of the match. We saw him being interviewed by the TV people below us, and we saw him being given his man of the match award by the UEFA people as well. Discussion, around us was about Raya's credentials for potentially being Arsenal's player of the season, and I think he's got a very good shout for that because of the consistency of the performances. I think I saw maybe someone on Blue Sky, I'm not sure, but they said no goalkeeper has had more clean sheets than David Raya this season. I think he has 7 in the Champions League and 15 in the Premier League. So, last night, first half, brilliant save, double save, and then that save actually down at his near post. Because it's close range, I think it has to go beyond. Could be Gabriel, somebody, before he gets side of it. It's just such a... I mean, you sort of expect him to make it because he's so good, but that is not an easy or a sure save, I think. I think it's just a really great piece of goalkeeping.
I think because he's so present in the league, you almost start to take him for granted a little bit. And the last few weeks, having Kepa in goal has kind of just shown the difference in the level that there is between the two players. And that's not to do Kepa down, really. I mean, but Raya's... I think this is why so many people were so frustrated that he didn't start the Carabao Cup, because there we were, obviously going for a trophy. And he's so integral to everything we do. He's the first line of defence and he's the first line of attack. He's genuinely... just undeniably one of the most important players in the squad, and I'm delighted that he's getting the attention that he deserves on an international level. Doing it in Europe, especially given that he's not actually Spain's number one goalkeeper. I mean, I think there must be people around the world wondering how on earth is this guy not getting into his national team ahead of is it
Unai Simon?
Yeah, but yeah, he's fantastic, and he's so. Understated, so laid back, so calm. You never see him getting angry really with anybody, and I think that just radiates throughout the rest of the team. The team looks so much calmer with him in it, whether he's on the ball. And obviously these moments, I mean, there's been so many this season where a game might have turned from a win to a draw or a draw to a loss because of him. And it's hard to put a kind of points tally on it, but yes, as you say, with all those clean sheets, I mean, it speaks for itself, right?
Yeah, Arteta said he didn't have the adjectives to describe how important Raya is. And listen, I don't want to sort of drag up the Carabao Cup final again, but I completely get what you're saying. He is a fundamental part of how we play. He is, as you say, integral to how we play. And you can ask somebody to replicate it, but it is a bit sort of like, well, when you don't have William Saliba, you've got Rob Holding. And as willing and as game as anybody is to fill that role, if you don't have the quality to do what that other player does, the team is going to suffer for it. And I know in that particular situation, for example, there wasn't a choice really. That was inflicted upon us by injury, and this was a different thing. But listen, I think Raya, he was absolutely fantastic last night and deserved his man of the match award. And when we come to the end of the season, maybe somebody goes on a goal scoring run that gets them over the line. But if David Raya wins player of the season for Arsenal, he'll have earned it, I think. When was the last time a goalkeeper won player of the year for Arsenal? I don't know.
I'd be guessing at a kind of
David
Seaman. 1
year, maybe.
Yeah,
who knows?
Possibly the year we made the Cup Winners' Cup final, but lost because he made the saves against Sampdoria in the penalty. It could have been something like that, but I don't know. It's hard. I mean, they so rarely get major attention. I just wanted to say on Raya, he's getting better.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like it's kind of, most goalkeepers, they make their mark and then you see that sort of steady decline. But at the moment, he really is kind of reaching peak. The height of his powers, I think. And I think the experience of playing at this level. I mean, he spoke in the press conference pre-game about obviously being at Southport and Blackburn and the grounding that he had in non-league football, and how much more he appreciates the opportunity to play Champions League football now. And you can kind of see that coming through. Like, he seems like a bloke who really doesn't want to let this opportunity slip. And after the game last night, he was asked whether or not Arsenal can win the Champions League, and he just said absolutely. You know, like, he seems to have absolute full belief in himself and the team that can go and do that. Which, when you're coming from a club who's never done that before, is quite something to hear.
No, it really is. And yeah, listen, he's been absolutely brilliant. Let's talk about the goal again then, because 2 minutes of injury time went up. It seemed a bit short based on the fact that there was an Odegaard stoppage. There was some treatment for him for the injury, and then there were some subs from both sides. So I thought we might get like 3, possibly 4.
I mean, UEFA stoppage time is a complete enigma, right? I mean, it's as if it doesn't matter what happens in the first half, you're going to get a minute at most. And in the second half, you know, it's always, I don't know what the percentage is, shorter than in the Premier League, where they seem to add on time for everything, and games are consistently running into 100 minutes now.
Yeah.
But it seems like a weird idiosyncrasy in the game that, you know, one competition can treat that type of thing so differently, when time on the pitch is obviously absolutely vital to how a team might, you know, go and win or lose or draw.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I thought there definitely should have been more.
There should have been, but it was still enough time for Arsenal to go and win it. And like, I think, you know, we were standing there at 2 minutes, and you're thinking, okay, we'll take the 0-0 back to North London. That's not a bad result per se, but then the ball comes out to Martinelli. He gave the defender a little bit of a 2-step shuffle. I don't quite know what you call what he did there. It was a bit of like running on the spot. Cut inside. I think this is, you know, the probably the best assist Gabriel Martinelli has ever got for Arsenal, because you sort of expect him to be on the end of things, but this was a really incisive, creative bit of play from him, because he spotted the run, he executed the pass perfectly. I still think there's quite a bit for Kai Havertz to do, but obviously doesn't happen without Martinelli's determination to try and make something happen at a point in the game where, having watched Arsenal in this game and this season, if that ball went backwards to the centre halves and we passed it around until the game finished 0-0, I would not have been in the least bit surprised. So it was really pleasing to see that level of endeavour. After the goal went in, there was a moment on the sideline where we could see Martinelli and Arteta having a big moment there on the sideline between the two of them as the players made their way back to the halfway line. So I think that was huge for him, huge for the team, huge for Arteta. The touch and finish from Havertz are perfect. And we talked about the net and how difficult it was maybe to identify certain players at certain moments. I thought when the ball went in the back of the net that it was Zubimendi who had scored the goal. And I was going, that's a very tidy finish.
And James said exactly the same. Yeah. James was next to me and he said, I thought that was Zubimendi who'd scored. And there was something about the tightness of the touch, I think, and the quick, you know, the way that he kind of stroked the ball with his left foot that was very Zubimendi-ish. Beautiful. I mean, again, just to go back on Martinelli, I mean, a couple of weeks away with the Brazil squad, he's surrounded by hugely talented players who are playing in his position, coming in off the left flank there. And he scored off the bench for Brazil, didn't he? I mean, his impact, his ability to kind of get into a game really, really quickly is, I mean, almost second to none. I mean, that's the third goal this season that he's come off the bench in the Champions League and been involved in. I mean, there was two
in Bilbao.
Because he obviously set up Trossard in Bilbao as well, didn't he? And he scored. It's a very handy knack to have. You do sometimes wonder for a player who does that so regularly off the bench, does it make the manager always think, well, I'm going to have to put you on the bench because I know that you're a better finisher than some of the other players?
I don't know.
But yeah, just excellent and good to see, you know, just some forward momentum there and brilliant from Havertz. Just such an incredibly tight touch, and then the decisiveness to just then slot the ball home. I mean, there's sort of split-second moment there these days where you kind of go, was he offside? Was he onside? But there was no danger of that. And
No.
I mean, he really enjoyed it. I mean, went to the corner flag, gave that a good kick. Everybody was all over him. Arteta was going mad.
Yeah.
Gabriel Heinzer on the touchline was telling everyone to calm down immediately, but he always does that in the most manic way that makes it impossible to believe that anyone could be calm in his presence.
Exactly. Imagine Gabriel Heinzer telling you to calm down.
Oh dear.
Man.
But yeah, just a fantastic moment, and the sporting end, emptied out almost immediately, and the Arsenal fans just went absolutely ballistic for a good few minutes, and really great.
Yeah, exactly. Because you at that point, you are sort of saying, right, just don't lose it. Whatever happens, just don't lose this game. So to get the winner at that moment was absolutely amazing, and like you say, in the stands, it was brilliant, and just.
Yeah, I mean, I said last night, I mean, it's the first time you, me, James and Tim have ever watched a game together. Yeah. And only the second time I've been in a stadium next to you in a game. And it's, it's a weird thing because we've worked together for 15 years or something. Yeah. It's sort of ridiculous. But it was just a really fun moment. Really fun moment. It
was great.
There's lots of lovely people around us as well.
Of course, yeah. It was great to spend time in their company as well. I think the fact that the referee somehow found a bit more injury time after the goal
just to make it interesting
was a little bit frustrating to me, because it was like 2 minutes and we scored, and then there was just more time.
Yeah, they added on a minute and a half for a celebration there, having not added on anything for any of the other stuff that happened in 45.
They did get the ball into our box a couple of times. There was one, I think Ben White cleared it up the line. I was going, yeah, ref is going to blow now. The ball has been cleared. You let the ball come back in. They put a cross in. I think Raya collected the cross, after which there was a very muted sort of final whistle, because we were all sort of there going, come on. And then all of a sudden it was sort of over. We didn't hear the final whistle from where we were, but obviously a huge moment. I mean, Martinelli, Champions League, 10 games, 6 goals, 2 assists. Martinelli, Premier League, 25 games, 1 goal, 3 assists. It's kind of hard to reconcile. About? I don't know. It's hard to reconcile that, isn't it? Maybe it's the style of football that you play, or the style of teams in the Champions League. But I think Sporting, much like Bayer Leverkusen did in the previous game, played in a way that you would probably associate more with a Premier League team than a European team. That the first leg away at Leverkusen was quite attritional, wasn't it? And the first half certainly we touched on, but this was the first leg where Sporting were absolutely not going to end up on the wrong end of a 5-1 or anything like that again. So they were going to make it really, really difficult. So I don't know if it's just a slight quirk of his season, or a slight quirk of just how it all plays out, but certainly there is a big difference between what he's delivered in the Premier League and the Champions League this season.
I mean, when you look at those numbers on the surface, I mean, there was a lot of discussion, wasn't there, earlier in the summer about whether it should be him or Trossard leaving. But, I mean, you just can't really deny the impact that both of those players have had on our season. And actually, if you'd got rid of either one of them, you'd have had to spend a lot of money finding a player who could actually get those numbers, even though there is no denying in the Premier League Martinelli's numbers are weirdly off. But if he takes us all the way to a Champions League final because of these goals and these assists, then no one's going to be complaining. I don't think he'll earn his legend status, that's for sure. I do really like him as a player, and as a I love his temperament. Like he has always been all about Arsenal since he got to the club. He's never really edged, he could easily have agitated for a move at some point when he sort of dropped out of the team. And this season, the way that he's been treated by the manager more as a finisher than really as a starter is interesting. And I wonder, like, if Arsenal win something this year, he'll probably be absolutely fine with it. But I wonder what will happen next year if he wanted, would he accept the same situation? I think that about a lot of players, actually. Like, I think Arteta's managed to formulate a sort of collective attitude towards it's all about the team and we have to win something this year, which is going to be hard to kind of replicate year on year and year with the same group of players. I think there's probably going to be some churn, right? But right now, he's doing absolutely everything that we could ask of him.
Yeah, and a big contribution and a big moment that I think, the team needed. Like, as I said, we could objectively say 0-0, fine, second leg, do the job, same as Bayer Leverkusen was 1-1, come back, do the job at home. But I think after what happened in the last 2 games, this, you would hope, is something that's really beneficial for the players. Like, you could see how much that meant to them when we scored the goal. It's not just about the late winner. There was something a bit more to it than that. There was a bit more to the way they, I don't want to say celebrated, but acknowledged the travelling support last night when they came over at the end of the game. Like, Declan Rice was fucking pumped up. Like, properly pumped up in the way that he reacted to that. So I think you have to look at that as ahead of the game against Bournemouth on Saturday and what remains of this season, sort of like the jump start we needed again after those 2 defeats.
Yeah, I mean, this team doesn't have many crisis moments, but it does have them, and when they happen, they're quite big meltdown moments for everybody involved, particularly the supporters. And this felt like an absolutely necessary changing of the chapter, or turning the page, or whatever you want to call it. Like, we needed this so much to change the mood around the team going into Saturday, which is absolutely vital. I mean, look, from a very, very personal perspective, and I said this after the game the other day on Blue Sky, that the FA Cup was a bit of a distraction as far as I was concerned. And as annoying as it was to lose to Southampton and to lose in the way that we did, everything for me has to be about the Champions League and the Premier League and going for those 2 massive trophies. And it's almost hard to forget that the last kick of the ball in the Premier League put us 9 points clear, Downman rounding the goalkeeper, and the ecstasy that everybody felt in that moment. And to have 2 weeks, 2 defeats in different competitions, and you'd think the whole world had ended, and it really hasn't. But this team is having to cope week in, week out with that level of kind of roller coaster emotion coming from all angles. Everybody asking, have Arsenal blown it? Not really. We haven't done anything different in the league in 2 weeks. We're still 9 points clear as we were 2 weeks ago. We haven't blown it. So I get the criticism and I get the frustration, but I do think the players they have enough in them to do this year. How
much do you think that exists internally as opposed to externally, shall I say? Because, you're absolutely right. When we beat Everton, when Dowman had that moment, when Gyökeres scored the goal, and then it allowed us to have that Dowman moment, which was something a bit special. At the same time, Dinos Mavropanos scores for West Ham and they hold Man City to a draw. Like, it felt amazing. It felt like not a real step towards the title, but you could feel that door properly opening up for Arsenal. And then the 2 cup defeats. Would it feel as bad, let's say, if we lost the Carabao Cup final to Liverpool or Newcastle? Would it feel quite as bad? Is it because it was City? Is it because when we lost to Southampton, Man City were battering Liverpool 4-0? Those are fears that I completely understand, from a fan perspective, because we have experienced things in the last number of years, at the hands of Manchester City, which have been very, very painful. So it's easy to let your mind go that way. But that's our experience, right? As fans, as supporters, as people who are invested in this team and really badly want to see it succeed and get over the line in this campaign. I just wonder if within the group itself, the meetings that they have, the priorities that they have laid out, like they want to win every game, we know that, etc., etc. But, it is Premier League, it is Champions League, far more important. Like, I think they're probably better capable or more able to compartmentalize those cup games. They still have to respond and react, which they did last night in the end. There's another aspect of this is to say that Arsenal, maybe didn't create a huge amount in this game, nor did Sporting, but we kept going right to the end, and that shows the kind of character that winning teams will display in these big competitions. So I just wonder, do you think that is that is something that as fans we have to reckon with more than the players. They just sort of have the disappointment of those games, but realise that there's a big opportunity there for them still.
Yeah, look, Arsenal haven't won a league title in 22 years, and we've never won the Champions League. We haven't won the League Cup since 1993.
Yeah.
And, the talk of the quadruple stuff is really just, of course, it's a fantastic thing to chase, but it was never
Pipe
really
dream.
going to be a reality.
It wasn't even our reality. It was like a construct because we had made progress in all these competitions. It's a media construct in as much as anything else.
Nobody else has done that, won a quadruple. And plenty of other teams have challenged quite late into a season looking to win a quadruple. And they don't end up with nothing. They inevitably end up with something. And I think the players, the Carabao Cup final, you could almost write it off as a one-off. It happened over there. City played out of their skins. I haven't met a City fan who didn't say that was their best performance of the season by a long shot.
And they were given a gift.
Yes, there was that as well. The FA Cup, I genuinely believe that the squad, while they want to win every game, probably didn't genuinely believe that they could win everything. It just doesn't make sense. Football is a game of luck as much as it is about anything else, and small moments can go against you in any game, and that's that. The whole season changes. So, yeah, I think they've done very well to compartmentalise things. And, we've had the crisis with the Wolves away result. We had the crisis with the Manchester United defeat. We've had this mini wobble here, but we do bounce back well. So you have to hope now that this is the start of the run that gets us over the line in the Premier League. And then you just see what happens in cup football. We could potentially be going up against an incredible two sides in the next two rounds if we can get through against Sporting next week.
Yeah. I mean, there's tasty potential fixtures, aren't there? If we win that second leg or draw that second leg, we're through.
I mean, how great it is to be in this situation. I mean, it's just a fantastic thing. We're on the verges of being in the semi-finals of the Champions League for a second consecutive year for the first time in our history.
Well, that's it. That's exactly it. I people listening will know this, and you know this very well because we talk all the time, and we've been covering Arsenal through ups and downs and middling bits. Like the idea that a few years ago we would be potential Champions League semi-finalists, and people say when you haven't been in that tournament for a long time, and we were 6-7 years out of the Champions League. We had our Europa League, we had our fallow year where we weren't in Europe at all. To come back in the first year and reach the quarterfinals, I think that was a solid step. To get to semi-finals last year and look at the players we had available to us, or didn't have available in the games against PSG, who obviously went on to win it and were the best team, I think. But you look at who we didn't have in those games, and a few moments, as you say, I'm not going to say it's luck, but there were chances in those PSG games where the goalkeeper was really, really important for them at moments in the games where it could potentially have taken on a different dynamic. And here we are again now, going up maybe against Barcelona or Atletico Madrid in the semi-final if we get through against Sporting. This team has really properly established itself in Europe now, and I get criticisms of style or whatever it might be, but you cannot, I don't think...
people respect us.
Yeah, you can't criticize the effectiveness of this team. Whether you like it or not is a different matter, but the sort of the ability to grind and to sort of get results is... listen, I think it's underestimated, and I think there is maybe a little too much focus on style when football, as everyone says, is a results-based business. But to be where we are now as a team in Europe, as the Sporting coach said last night, top-class opposition is how he referred to Arsenal. And we were watching a game on Tuesday night here. Monday night. I got in on Monday. We were in a bar and we were watching Benfica play, I think the team who are second from bottom in the Portuguese league. They're also a Lisbon team. I can't remember the name of them.
I don't.
I can't remember. I'll look it up. But I was looking at it, and it was bad.
It was bad.
It was really, really bad.
You were watching a Mourinho team.
We were watching a Mourinho team. That's true. And actually, the post-game coverage of Mourinho was really quite entertaining because he went off coding the players and all kinds of stuff. But I was looking at that, and the level was not good. I'm just looking at the. I can't find it here. It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
And I've kind of forgotten the point I was going to make. So it's a big, long, rambling tangent there, which has no fulfillment for anybody listening. So I apologize for that. But yeah, I think we are a team, as you say, that everyone respects at this point.
Yeah. Look, I've found in the last few weeks the increasing frustration with Arsenal's style of play to be a kind of badge of honour, I think.
Casapia is the name of the team that Benfica drew 1-1 with, more or less ending their title hopes.
Casapia, okay. Yeah. Now I don't know what I was talking about.
It doesn't matter.
If you made it this far, folks, congratulations. There will be a prize.
It was about talking about style in the last few weeks, I think, is what you had just said.
Yeah, no, I think Tim has written about this extensively, actually, about the fact that we've kind of turned ourselves into the sort of George Graham style, everybody hates us, we don't care, 1-0 to the Arsenal. We might as well just embrace it. I was really hoping this season that we would come out all guns firing, would be really stylish, would be a team that would win the league with some swagger, because we'd added so many great players to the the roster. And then that Manchester United game happened on the opening day of the season, and I just went, oh no, we are just gonna grind this out. And I made my peace with it before Christmas. That we're not going to win this being everybody's favourites. We're not going to win this, like the 2002 double team, scoring goals left, right and centre with fantastic players and sweeping football. It's going to be a bit more artisanal, industrial, and it's going to be
brutalist,
pretty horrible. And I've already labelled the team the Unbearables, and I stand by that, because we're unbearable for everyone else. We're unbearable for our own fans sometimes. And I think we just need to just roll with it and hope that they can be unbearable for a few more weeks.
That's all they need to do.
And then we can have a parade, and we can write the season off and say, great, that was fantastic. And then next year we'll go and win it with some style.
Exactly. We can stick two fingers up at everybody, I think. And of course, despite all that, no team has scored more goals in the Premier League this season than Arsenal. So, wrap your heads around that one. So, just wanted to talk before we go, just very quickly, about the match day experience. Lisbon is a great town, and the people are great, really friendly, really welcoming. We weren't sort of in the heart of the city pre-game, but we got the train out, we got the metro out. Last year when we came here, there was a little pizza restaurant on the way to the stadium where they were banging out €5 pizzas, selling cans of beer for €1, and it was brilliant. And everyone had a great time, and there were Sporting fans there, and there were Arsenal fans there, and everyone was mixing together and chatting about football, and it was a really nice experience. And I don't know if something happened that I didn't see, but at no point did I get any sense that there was real trouble, that the Arsenal fans were misbehaving in any way. When we got off the train and came out of that station, it was really quite weird to see these stormtroopers, and that's the only way I can describe them. Like full body armor, truncheons, shields, masks on, so you could only see their eyes, and they sort of corralled us into the stadium. We tried to go over to the pizza place, and the guy was like, "Get back on the fucking road there."
Yeah.
It felt a little unnecessary to me for that presence to be as threatening and intimidating as it was. Like you see those guys and you're like, right, I'm staying away from you. I'm just going to keep head down and walk into the stadium. Stadium was fine, bit of searching, bit of overzealous searching. One of our group had a hairbrush that she had to put in the bin, which is a bit ridiculous. A tiny little hairbrush as well, but, of course, dangerous weapon. You're not allowed to bring that into the stadium.
But you could buy Magnum ice creams in the stadium, which I would dare say if you threw one of those cold enough would be a weapon.
Yeah, you got the stick, you can sharpen that stick. It's like a prison yard shank, that was an element. I think it was a brilliant trip, and it was amazing to be there at the game and to win it the way we did. But as well, afterwards, they let us out of the stadium after, about half an hour, I would say.
Maybe a bit longer,
Maybe
actually.
a bit longer, 40 minutes. And again, sort of corralled us like sheep into one file to walk all the way back to the station. It just
intimidating for the sake of being intimidating,
Yeah.
and completely at odds with the vibe of the fans.
Absolutely.
Because to look around an Arsenal away end these days, it's not like it's the 1980s and everybody's there in a firm ready to kind of go fisticuffs with whoever's local. It was such a weird. It kind of put a weird level of tension just as you were both entering and exiting the ground. Really, really unnecessary. And like you said, I'd been here in 2018 and I'd seen the stormtroopers, but hadn't quite had that level of well, it was almost a kettling experience, effectively, the way they just sort of blocked you in.
Yeah.
Hadn't experienced that. And, you didn't see it in the centre of town either, because it's quite possible, you're more likely to get issues where the Arsenal fans are drinking right in the middle of town and having a few beers, and then everyone's getting rowdy and singing songs and stuff like that. But didn't really experience it there. They just, I don't know, it's a very odd decision on their part. But I don't know whether it's a UEFA diktat and that they feel like they have to step it up in the final, in the final rounds or something.
I don't know. Like, they were sort of on the fringes last time. There's always going to be some of them, but the way there was like one on your left, and then 5 yards later, one on the right, one on the left, one on the right, and they're not like, hey guys, how you doing?
Yeah.
Like,
it's deliberately unfriendly.
Moving. Yeah, it's like, not particularly great, but
Anyway,
like we said, at odds with whatever else we have experienced.
And Lisbon
in this
is
fine
fantastic.
City.
Yeah, it's just an absolutely delightful city. And even though the weather yesterday was worse in Lisbon than it was in London,
and Dublin even as well.
Yeah, it was. It's a pretty special place they've got.
Yeah. Well, the sun is shining today, so I think we might leave it there for this particular episode and go out and have a wander and see what the city brings us in terms of food. And I think there could be some pastels de nata with our names on them.
Yeah, why not? And yes, apologies for being a little bit slow today. I think that was definitely the late night.
We got ourselves warmed up a bit.
Yeah, we got there in the end.
To be fair, like it was midnight when we got back into town. And we had a couple of beers, and then that bar closed, and we wandered down towards Pink Street and immediately swerved what was going on there. Because thank you to all the gentlemen offering me cocaine and hash, but I didn't want any of that, and I didn't want to go to any strip clubs, despite some suggestions from a particular gentleman. We ended up in this cool bar, had a couple of cocktails in this cool bar. Upstairs was a DJ banging out these brilliant like house tunes, perfect mixing, and there was me and you and two American lads having a jug of sangria ahead of us, and that was about it.
That was it. Yeah, it was very romantic.
Yeah, it was lovely. It really was lovely.
I think it was the last margarita that probably tipped me over the edge. But we made it to bed seperately, even though I'm now in your hotel room again.
Yeah. It's good cover. Well done. You've covered your tracks well there. No, it was a great night, and great to see like so many Arsenal fans there, and the guy who left the stadium with his seat under his jacket. Fair play to him. It broke off naturally, I think, so he just took it with him.
Yeah, he took it with him. I'm sure EasyJet will be delighted to welcome him on board with his own seat.
He was the Arsenal fan who left with a bit of body armour. But yeah, no.
Oh, there is one last thing. I think Tim said yesterday that he didn't have his ticket scanned on his way in, and the club have made a really big deal about only giving you the away point if your ticket is scanned. So it'll be interesting to see if if anything comes of that, and if anybody else experienced not getting their tickets scanned on the way in.
That's weird, because the guy had was making sure he scanned mine on the way in. But yeah, hopefully no repercussions for Tim or anybody else. Right. I think we'll leave it there. There is obviously a huge game against Bournemouth on Saturday, which we'll talk about a bit later in the week over on Patreon. Our Patreon drive this month as well, obviously in support of the Arsenal Vision fundraiser for the Arsenal Foundation, is ongoing. So if that's something you can support, brilliant. And don't forget that in the month of April, Arseblog will be donating every single penny that we make from Patreon to good causes. We'll give you details of those good causes a little bit later in the month. But if you want to join for this month only, you get all that extra content, and you're going to help those good causes that we talked about. So there's a lot going on. We'll talk about it on Friday. We'll do our Premier League preview podcast. It's patreon.com/Arseblog. You can sign up there. For now, though, take it easy, folks. Thank you for being with us. Thanks for indulging us, the croaky voices and the slow start. We got ourselves warmed up. For now, take it easy, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Until then.